Everything you've been taught about success is designed to keep you from achieving it. The motivational industry has convinced you that you need to be louder, more visible, more aggressive in pursuing your goals. They've told you to announce your intentions, to speak your dreams into existence, to make noise until someone notices you. And how is that working for you? Still struggling while watching others effortlessly succeed. That's because you've been following a formula created to keep the masses distracted while the truly successful operate on entirely different principles. The real secret isn't found in making more noise, it's found in creating more silence. It isn't about pushing harder, it's about aligning better. It isn't about forcing outcomes, it's about flowing with natural law. The most powerful force in the universe is not noise. It's silence. When was the last time you truly experienced silence? Not just the absence of sound, but the presence of something much greater. Most people fear silence because they don't understand its power. They fill every moment with noise, with words, with activity, never realizing that everything valuable in life comes from moments of quiet. You see, silence is not emptiness, it is fullness. It's not nothing, it is everything. And until you grasp this truth, you will continue to struggle against the very forces that want to bring you success. I want to tell you something that might change your life forever. Everything you're looking for is already inside you, waiting in the silence. Your purpose, your potential, your power, they're all there. But you can't access them when you're constantly surrounded by noise. Think about this. A seed doesn't grow by forcing itself. It grows by tapping into the silent forces of nature. The seed doesn't make noise announcing its intentions to become a tree. It simply connects with the soil, stores nutrients, and transforms. This is how nature works, not through force, but through alignment with natural laws. I remember a time in my life when I was working so hard, pushing for results, speaking to everyone about my plans, my ideas, my vision. I was exhausted. I was frustrated. Nothing seemed to move forward despite all my effort. Then one day, a mentor said to me, "You're making too much noise. Your voice is drowning out the voice of wisdom." Those words stopped me cold. I realized I had been doing all the talking and none of the listening. I had been so busy telling the universe what I wanted that I couldn't hear what the universe was telling me. So I decided to experiment with silence. For 1 hour each morning, I would sit quietly. No phone, no music, no talking, just silence. The first few days were torture. My mind raced with thoughts, no plans, no worries. But gradually, something remarkable happened. In that silence, I began to hear a different voice, not the voice of my ego, but the voice of clarity. This voice didn't shout, it whispered. It didn't demand, it invited. And as I listened, I discovered ideas and insights that had been there all along, buried beneath the noise of my own making. One morning during my time of silence, I had a clear thought about a project I had been struggling with for months. I saw the solution so vividly that I wondered why I hadn't seen it before. That solution led to one of the most successful ventures of my life. And it came not from striving, but from being still. You see, there's a fundamental law of nature that most people never understand. Everything in nature operates according to set principles. The ocean doesn't try to be the ocean, it simply is. The sun doesn't try to shine, it simply does. And your life will unfold naturally when you stop fighting against these principles and start aligning with them. The problem with most people is that they're trying to force outcomes. They're pushing, struggling, making noise, announcing their intentions to the world. But that's not how natural law works. Natural law works in silence. Look at a bamboo plant. For the first 4 years after being planted, you see almost no growth above ground. If you didn't know better, you might think the plant was dead or failing. But during those 4 years, the bamboo is developing an extensive root system underground. Then, in the 5th year, the bamboo can grow up to 80 feet in just 6 weeks. This is how success really works. There's a period of silence, a period where nothing seems to be happening. But during that time, your roots are growing. Your foundation is being established. And when the time is right, your growth will be exponential. Most people can't handle this silent period. They get impatient. They want immediate results. They make noise. They switch directions. They abandon the very thing that was about to bear fruit. But the person who understands the power of silence knows that this quiet time is not a waste. It's essential. It's where the real work happens. I've seen this principle work in the lives of countless successful people. They weren't always the ones making the most noise. They weren't always the ones with the flashiest presentations or the loudest voices. They were often the quiet ones, the ones who were listening, observing, reflecting, and then acting with precision. When you stay silent, you give space for natural principles to work in your life. You allow your intuition to guide you. You permit your subconscious mind to solve problems that your conscious mind can't figure out. I had a friend who was constantly talking about his business ideas. Every time we met, he had a new plan, a new strategy, a new vision. He would tell everyone who would listen. But years passed, and he never built anything substantial. Then I met another person who barely spoke about her business. She just quietly built it. When I finally visited her company, I was amazed at what she had created while making almost no noise about it. The difference was clear. The first person was expending his energy talking. The second person was channeling her energy into building. Silence is not the absence of action. It's concentrated action. It's focused energy. It's power waiting to be released. Think about the most powerful forces in nature. Gravity doesn't make a sound, yet it holds planets in orbit. Electricity flows silently until it manifests as light or heat. Magnetism works invisibly, yet it can pull metal across a room. Your potential works the same way, in silence. It gathers strength. In quietness, it finds direction. In stillness, it discovers its path. When you learn to stay silent, you're not doing nothing. You're doing the most important thing. You're allowing everything to come naturally. You're removing the obstacles that your noise, your anxiety, your forcing has placed in the way of your success. I want you to try something. For the next week, create pockets of silence in your day. Just 15 minutes to start with. Sit quietly. Don't try to make anything happen. Don't try to force any insights. Just be still and know that natural laws are working on your behalf. During these moments of silence, you might feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. We're not used to silence in our busy world, but push through that discomfort. On the other side is a power you've never experienced before. The noise around you is not your enemy. The noise inside you is. Most people live their entire lives without ever truly hearing themselves. They hear the opinions of others. They hear the expectations of society. They hear the fears from their past. But they never hear that quiet, confident voice that speaks their true purpose. Your inner voice is the most valuable asset you possess. It knows who you really are. It knows what you were born to do. But this voice doesn't shout. It doesn't compete with the noise. It waits for silence. I was once mentoring a young woman who was struggling to make a major life decision. She had a prestigious job that paid well, but she felt empty inside. She asked me, how do I know what the right choice is? I told her, the answer isn't in more information. It's in more silence. She looked at me like I was crazy. But I need to figure this out. She insisted. I need to talk to more people. Read more books. Make more pros and cons lists. I smiled and said, that's exactly your problem. You're creating so much noise that you can't hear the answer that's already inside you. Reluctantly. She agreed to try an experiment for 1 week. She would spend 30 minutes each morning in complete silence. No phone, no music, no planning. Just sitting with her own thoughts. When I saw her a week later, there was a new light in her eyes. I heard it, she said. On the third day, in the middle of the silence, I suddenly knew exactly what I needed to do. It wasn't a logical conclusion. It was a knowing that came from somewhere deeper. 6 months later, she had left her job and started a small business that aligned with her true passions. Today, that business employs 27 people and serves clients around the world. All because she finally heard the voice that had been trying to speak to her for years. You see, your inner voice doesn't just tell you what to do. It tells you who you are. And when you know who you are, you naturally know what to do. The problem is that most people are afraid of their inner voice. They drown it out because they're afraid of what it might say. They're afraid it might call them to leave comfort behind. They're afraid it might ask them to risk failure. They're afraid it might demand that they become more than they currently are. So they fill their lives with noise. They keep busy. They seek constant distraction. They surround themselves with the opinions of others. And in doing so, they silence the very guide that could lead them to their true purpose. There's a natural law at work here. Your authentic self emerges not through force, but through allowing. Not through noise, but through silence. Just as a clear reflection can only appear on still water, your true nature can only emerge in the stillness of your mind. I remember a time when I was facing a major decision in my work. 2 paths lay before me, both with advantages and disadvantages. I had analyzed the options from every angle. I had consulted experts. I had created spreadsheets comparing the potential outcomes. But still, I felt torn. Then one morning, during my time of silence, I asked a simple question: what am I really seeking here? And in the quiet that followed, I realized something profound. Neither option would satisfy me because I was asking the wrong question. I wasn't meant to choose between these paths at all. I was meant to create a third path that didn't exist yet. That insight didn't come from analysis. It came from silence. It came from allowing my inner voice to speak. When you stay silent, you create space for your authentic self to emerge. Not the self that was shaped by others' expectations. Not the self that was formed by your fears. But the self that you were born to be. This inner voice is connected to natural wisdom. It understands timing. It knows when to move forward and when to wait. It recognizes opportunities that your conscious mind might miss. But it only speaks in silence. Think about how nature works. A flower doesn't bloom because someone tells it to. It blooms when conditions are right. Your purpose works the same way. It unfolds not through forcing, but through creating the right conditions. And the first condition is silence. The noise of worry drowns out confidence. The noise of comparison drowns out uniqueness. The noise of hurry drowns out purpose. When you remove these noises, what remains is your natural state confident, unique, purposeful. I want you to understand something. Your inner voice already knows every answer you're seeking, every solution to every problem you face, every step on the path to your highest potential. But this voice doesn't speak the language of noise. It speaks the language of silence. Many people mistake this inner voice for intuition or gut feeling. But it's more than that. It's the voice of your authentic self trying to align you with natural laws. When you listen to this voice, you don't have to force outcomes. You naturally move in harmony with the principles that govern success. There was a time in my life when I was working hard on a major project. I was putting in 16-hour days, pushing myself to the limit. But despite all my effort, I kept running into obstacles. One day, exhausted, I finally stopped. I sat in silence for several hours. And in that silence, I heard my inner voice clearly for the first time in months. It said simply, "You're trying to harvest what you haven't planted." I realized I had been trying to skip essential steps. I had been pushing for results without building the proper foundation. Once I understood this, I changed my approach. I slowed down. I focused on planting seeds rather than demanding fruit. And within months, the project began to flourish naturally, without the exhausting effort I had been putting in before. Your inner voice knows the natural order of things. It understands that some things cannot be rushed. It recognizes that true success comes not from forcing, but from aligning. Not from noise, but from quiet confidence. When you stay silent, you allow this voice to guide you. You permit your natural abilities to emerge. You create space for your authentic purpose to reveal itself. And in this space, everything you're seeking will come to you naturally. I'll continue with part 3 of the motivational speech in Dr. Myles Munroe style, focusing on the natural laws of personal growth in 800 words. Part 3, the natural laws of personal growth. Success is not an accident. It's a natural result of alignment with universal laws. The question is not whether these laws exist. The question is whether you're working with them or against them. Most people fail not because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because they're fighting natural laws instead of flowing with them. They push when they should wait. They force when they should allow. They talk when they should listen. The first natural law of personal growth is this: everything valuable takes time to develop. Look at any masterpiece and you'll find years of invisible work behind it. Look at any overnight success and you'll discover decades of preparation that no one saw. I once met a musician who complained that his career wasn't moving forward despite his obvious talent. I've been trying to get noticed for 2 years. He told me, "I've sent my demos to every producer. I've posted my songs online. I've told everyone about my music, but nothing's happening." I asked him a simple question: "How long have you been practicing your craft?" "About 3 years," he answered. I smiled and said, "That's your problem. You're trying to harvest what you haven't fully grown. The natural law of development requires more time." He looked disappointed. But I continued, "The oak tree doesn't complain that it's not tall enough after 3 years. It simply continues to grow roots. knowing that its height will come naturally when the foundation is strong enough. 3 years later, I ran into this same musician. He had taken my advice to heart. Instead of pushing for recognition, he had focused on deepening his skills. He had studied with masters. He had written hundreds of songs that no one heard. He had practiced in silence. Now, his music was being played around the world. Success had come to him naturally. Not because he forced it, but because he aligned with the natural law of development. The second natural law of personal growth is that resistance strengthens you. When you plant a tree in a place with no wind, it grows tall quickly but falls easily in the first storm. The tree that grows against constant wind develops deep roots and strong fibers. It grows more slowly, but it lasts for generations. Many people avoid resistance. They run from challenges. They hide from criticism. But in doing so, they deny themselves the very thing that would make them strong. When you stay silent in the face of challenges, you're not being passive. You're allowing natural processes to strengthen you. You're letting the resistance build your character, deepen your roots, and prepare you for lasting success. I remember a woman in my community who lost everything in a financial crisis. Instead of complaining publicly or blaming others, she remained silent. She went back to school. She worked 2 jobs. She rebuilt her life quietly, without announcement or fanfare. Today, she runs a successful financial education company that has helped thousands avoid the same mistakes she made. Her strength came not from avoiding difficulty, but from embracing it silently, allowing it to transform her. The third natural law of personal growth is that true power flows through you, not from you. When you try to be the source of your own success, you quickly deplete your limited personal resources. But when you position yourself as a channel for natural power to flow through, you tap into unlimited potential. This is why silence is so crucial. When you're constantly making noise, you're trying to be the source. When you're silent, you become the channel. You align yourself with forces greater than your own limited abilities. There's a story about a water bearer in an ancient village who carried 2 large pots to the well each day. One pot was perfect, but the other had a crack and leaked water all along the path. For years, the cracked pot felt ashamed of its imperfection. One day, the water bearer said to the cracked pot, "Have you noticed the flowers that grow only on your side of the path? I've always known about your crack, so I planted flower seeds on your side. Every day you've watered them. Without you being exactly as you are, this beauty would not exist. What seemed like a flaw was actually creating beauty. What looked like failure was actually fulfilling a purpose. When you align with natural laws, even your apparent weaknesses become strengths. Even your challenges become opportunities. Even your silence becomes powerful. Your growth doesn't require your forcing. It requires your alignment. It doesn't demand your noise. It invites your silence. Stay silent and watch how naturally everything you seek begins to flow toward you. I'll continue with part 4 of the motivational speech in Dr. Myles Munroe's style, focusing on releasing control to gain power in 500 words. Part 4, releasing control to gain power. The greatest paradox in life is this: you gain control by releasing it. You find power by surrendering. You achieve success by letting go of your desperate grip on it. This truth is uncomfortable because it challenges everything society has taught you. All from childhood, you've been told to take control. Make things happen. Force your way forward. But natural law works in the opposite direction. Look at water. When contained in a cup, it can only affect what's in the cup. But when released, it can carve canyons through mountains. Your potential works the same way when you try to control everything. You limit yourself to what your limited mind can conceive. When you release control, you tap into possibilities beyond your imagination. I once worked with a business leader who controlled every aspect of his company. He reviewed every decision, approved every expense, directed every move. His company was successful, but it had reached a plateau. Growth had stopped. During a private conversation, I told him, your control is now your limitation. He was offended at first, but after reflection, he decided to experiment. He selected key leaders within his organization and transferred authority to them. He stopped attending every meeting. He created space for others to make decisions without his input. The first few months were difficult. Some mistakes were made. But soon, something remarkable happened. The company began to grow again. New ideas emerged that he would never have conceived. The organization expanded beyond what his single vision could have created. By releasing control, he gained more than he ever had through controlling. This principle applies to every area of life. When you try to control people, you get only what force can produce. When you release them to be themselves, you receive what freedom can create. When you try to control circumstances, you limit outcomes to your own vision. When you release your grip, you open yourself to possibilities beyond your planning. Silence is the first step in this release. When you stop talking, when you stop insisting, when you stop demanding, you create space for natural forces to work on your behalf. The earth doesn't struggle to rotate. Rivers don't strain to flow downhill. Seeds don't force themselves to grow. Everything in nature succeeds by aligning with natural law, not by fighting against it. Your success follows the same pattern. It comes not through your strain, but through your surrender. Not through your noise, but through your silence. Not through your control, but through your release. The power you're seeking isn't something you need to create. It already exists. It's not something you need to find. It's already within you. Your task is not to force it, but to release it. Not to build it, but to uncover it. Not to announce it, but to allow it to emerge naturally. Stay silent. Release control. And watch as power beyond your imagination begins to flow through your life. Most people live from scarcity when abundance surrounds them. They struggle in poverty while standing in a garden of plenty. Oh, why? Because they're making too much noise to notice the wealth available in silence. There's a fundamental difference between striving and thriving. Striving comes from belief in scarcity. Thriving comes from alignment with abundance. Striving creates noise. Thriving emerges from silence. When you stay silent, you tune into the frequency of abundance. You become receptive to opportunities that have always been there, but were drowned out by the noise of your striving. You notice resources that were always available, but were hidden by your anxious activity. I want to share a story that changed my understanding of natural abundance. Years ago, I met a farmer who owned the most productive land in his region, while neighboring farms struggled during dry seasons. His crops remained vibrant and healthy. Everyone wondered about his secret. One day, I visited his farm and asked him directly, "What makes your land so productive when others around you struggle?" He smiled and said, Let me show you. He led me to a part of his property where a small stream flowed. 30 years ago, when I bought this land, this stream wasn't here. You created it, I asked, impressed. No, he replied, I discovered it. It was always here, flowing underground. The previous owner spent years trying to irrigate the land with expensive systems. He worked hard, made noise, fought against nature. But the water he needed was already here, flowing silently beneath his feet. So what did you do differently? I asked. I stayed silent, he said. When I first bought the land, instead of immediately starting to work it like the previous owner, I spent weeks just observing, walking, listening, noticing. One day, I noticed a small area where the soil stayed moist even in dry weather. Instead of trying to force a solution, I simply removed the layers covering the natural spring. I didn't create the water. I just removed what was blocking it. This farmer understood a principle that most people miss. Abundance isn't something you create through noise and effort. Abundance is already present. Your task is simply to remove what blocks its natural flow. Your talents, your purpose, your opportunities, they're like that underground stream. They're already within you and around you. But they're often covered by the noise of your worrying, your striving, your forcing. When you stay silent, you become like that wise farmer. You notice what others miss. You remove what blocks your natural flow. You align with the abundance that has always been available to you. This is why silence is so powerful. Not because it's passive, but because it's receptive. Not because it's weak, but because it's wise. Not because it's empty, but because it creates space for natural fullness. The life you want isn't something you need to chase with noise and struggle. It's something that emerges naturally when you become still enough to let it find you. Stay silent. And watch as opportunities come to you instead of you having to chase them. Stay silent. And feel how your natural talents begin to flow without strain. Stay silent. And witness how abundance transforms your life not through your forcing, but through your allowing. Your success is waiting in the silence. Your purpose is speaking in the silence. Your abundance is flowing in the silence. Stay silent. And everything you seek will come to you naturally.